Kristy, thank you so much for coming. I wanted to tell you why I wanted to bring you here, like publicly, because I think everybody should know why you're such a badass. So we met at Haute Couture the first year I did it with some friends of mine, and then the next year I decided, well, maybe I want to try to do it by myself. Haute Couture is this really awesome fundraiser for fashion designers and artisans and the community to just get together and raise money for the Crucible, right? So you are like the lead gal on that. You navigate and manage everybody in that arena. And I just wanted to, you always stick with me, in my mind, the amount of grace that you have and compassion and patience, and with such a wide range of people and such a diverse group. And it sticks with me as a trait that I want to bring to the table. Thank you for showing up that way.
Thank you. That's a beautiful compliment. Thank you very much.
Well, you are such a badass in that way, and so many, other ways. Just you worked at Crucible for so long, and then I've kind of been watching you make this transition. But what's so beautiful about that is the choices that you've made. Like you have this great business, administrative, um, program development mind, and you use it in such a beautiful way with such beautiful companies and events. And I really admire that, and think that what you're giving back to the community is so freaking badass.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Can you tell me a little bit about Girls Garage?
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
freaking
First of all,
cool.
thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our friendship and our collaboration, and you and Ron brought so much artistry. I'm just in awe of the work you all create, and just I think the energy you bring. It's super beautiful. So it was always a pleasure when Haute Couture came around to collaborate with you.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I'm at Girls Garage, which is a design and building workshop for girls 9 to 18 years old. And it was founded by this woman named Emily Pillage. She has these phenomenal teachers who have been with Girls Garage like 5 to 6 years. They all have day jobs and then come after work to work with these girls. And I met Emily 2 years ago, and I came on to join her as development director at a really pivotal time at Girls Garage. That year that Emily hired me, Girls Garage committed to providing free teen programs for any girl that wants to come as many times as they
Wow.
want to come. And
Wow. What
so,
that is awesome. Just that, taking that on and offering that and all that goes with it. I
right.
just want to, wow. I got a
Yeah.
little bit goosebumpy right there for a second.
Yeah. I think it's some
That's
bravery
really
to
amazing.
be honest about accessibility, and like if
Yeah,
that's a barrier, if
it is a barrier.
finances are a barrier, then like she just wanted to get rid of that. And it's really extraordinary to work with a boss like Emily, because she leads with love, and
Yeah.
everything she does has to do with what is in the best interest for these girls. And we actually last year had a cohort of 17 girls who graduated and are going on to college. And I think for her, it was this pivotal moment of seeing the work, because some of these girls had been with Girls Garage since they were 10 years old and are now 17 and going out into the world, having this experience. Our tagline is Fear Less, Build More.
Oh, I love it.
It's so
I
beautiful.
love it.
It's so it just it hits on that idea that like we can be afraid, and that's
Yeah.
perfectly fine, and we just continue on.
And
And
it's so interesting how many women I even know that don't know how to use a power tool, or just never thought that it was for them, or um you know, or had the permission or give themselves the permission to just get that beast out and use it.
That's right.
It's
That's right.
really interesting.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the questions you sent to me prior, and I was thinking about like the commonality of the work I've done both at the Crucible and at Girls
Yes.
Garage. And I think there's something really interesting to me around um, making these things available to anyone. Because so many people I like have told me, I wish this were around when I was a girl, or I wish
Yeah.
I knew how to weld, or I wish I was an artist. And the thing is, all of this belongs to all of us. And I think it's
Yeah.
just having those access points and a community to help really instill that belief in yourself.
Yeah.
Because so many people I know don't believe they're writers or creatives
Right.
or builders. And I think it really just has to do with just being exposed to it and feeling
Exposure.
that you have a safe place to learn.
I took wood shop when I was in high school, and they had home ec and wood shop and cooking, and I just wood shop was just so freaking awesome. It was the first time that I ever really got a hold of like a giant stand-up bandsaw, and um you know, a lathe for full boards. It was just the best experience to be able to build something. And I have to say, I think it really contributed to my confidence in doing like other stuff, fashion design, almost anything creative.
I love that you mentioned that because I think it transforms how you see yourself in the world. I mean,
Yes.
I often joke with my boss that if I knew I could be a panda handler, like maybe my life would look different, you know, like I think it's just opening up the possibility that really all of these things are for us.
Yeah.
And, you know, with a good teacher and some resources, I think it just changes how we view ourselves in the world.
Yeah.
You know how to problem solve. I think
Yeah. And you know yourself capable. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right.
So did you always have this inclination to build your community up, or was there like a pivotal moment in your life that you're like, this is my path?
That's a good question. Um, I I think there were two really big moments in my life when I was younger. So I went to UC Berkeley
Uh-huh.
and I studied English. Berkeley has you concentrate on a certain area. And so you could do like queer literature, or you can do women's literature. There's a focus. And so I took the path of reading literature written by enslaved folks, and
Ah,
so people who were subjugated to slavery and wrote these books and kind of documented
that,
their experience.
yeah.
And for me that really changed nearly everything, because once you know and understand the foundations of kind of how this country was built and the exclusions that were created to really exclude probably 92% of the population.
Mhm.
I think that really, I couldn't unsee it. And I began to look at systems a lot, both
Huh.
systemically, how we build our society, educational systems. And so I graduated from Cal and I became a teacher in Oakland Unified. And I loved it. I loved being a teacher, and I was really disheartened to see the way I taught in Deep East Oakland. I was really disheartened to see the way we kind of create these social systems that basically kind of, not kind of, that keep people
Yes.
in these places,
Yes.
And for me growing up, I grew up in the Central Valley, and we weren't well off, but I didn't know that because we lived in a mixed neighborhood. um I had wide open spaces. I i went to a school that like had a playground, and so just being able to see and witness kind of just the ways like other children experience the world just
Yeah.
really set something on fire for me about just like what what do I do? How can I be of service here? And so I taught in Oakland Public Schools for about 3 years and then made a transition into program administration. It was just like my place. I love creating possibilities and opportunities and being inspired by who they are
Yes.
and meeting them where they are around these educational opportunities. So I think that education in Berkeley was just so fundamental of just understanding one, the power of education, but two, the fact that we really, in order to move beyond this, we have to have a questioning frame of mind about
Yeah.
like, why is it like this?
Yeah.
What can we do differently to
Yeah.
shift this?
The idea of question authority that, an educated parent always tells their child, question authority, question authority. Not everybody, one, has that opportunity, or two, understands what that really means.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean being a rebel or destructive or abusive. It means definitely checking it out for everybody. Is there equality involved? How is it operating? Who's benefiting from it?
yes.
It's very interesting that you bring that up, and so mindful. I'm even more moved by knowing you now and recognizing this part of you. It's so beautiful and such a great gift that you give, constantly when you show up.
Thank you.
And I think that she's really lucky to have found you to help run that program at Girls Garage.
Oh, thank
Def-
you.
Definitely. So what's your, maybe Girls Garage, or maybe even a little bit bigger, what would your goal be in life, perhaps?
Oh,
That's
that's a good,
big. I know.
that's a
It's
good one.
asking a lot.
No, it's all right. I mean, I remember I think overlaid too with this experience around thinking about like race and equity and inclusion, it's also been overlaid with Buddhism. When I was 25 years old, I
Yeah.
started reading Buddhist texts, and it just really resonated me around compassion and mindfulness and just being aware that all things pass, right? The good and the bad. And so I think like in some ways my life goal, I remember my family, because I was one of the first college graduates in one side of my family. In
Yeah.
the other side of my family, like everyone went to Cal. In my like Latino family, everyone went to Cal. It wasn't even a big deal, but my other side of the family was a very big deal, and everyone
Yeah.
wanted me to become a lawyer. And I remember my grandfather, who his mother was born in Spain, and he came here and like made his way in the universe. He used to ask me, "What are you gonna do? What do you want to be when you get
Right.
older?" And I just remember saying to him, much to like his anger, "I just want to be a good person." Like
Oh, that's
that really was important to me. So I think a core value that at the end of my life, I want to look back and know that um, everything I did was by, through, and with love. Um, I think that's really important. I think career wise, I
well, that's beautiful. I just want to take a moment and just say, you know, thank you for that audacious, beautiful, authentic choice of being.
thank you, Lisa.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
That's
appreciate it.
great.
Yeah, it feels real. I mean, that
It's beautiful.
I think so much comes from that too. And so
Yeah.
I think that's like, yeah, the best I can articulate. The rest
That's
of
good.
my
It's
life
perfect.
will
It's
like come.
perfect. I just wanted to give it
Oh,
the
thank you.
moment it deserved, before we went on to all these things we have to do and be, and or think we do, and just, hold a space for that, because that's
I'm a good right hand woman, if you
why
use
are you
it.
equipped for that? I mean, what makes you good at that?
That's a good question. I I tend to I think what I'm really good at is hearing what people want to do and being able to figure out how we get there. So
Ah,
they have these like great visions, and I'm able to like help articulate the things we need to do to get there. During my time at the Crucible, um there were executive directors that came and went during the 12 years I
Yeah.
was there. So I had this opportunity to run probably 75% of the organization, from like
Yeah.
HR to events to volunteering. And so it gave me a really concrete sense of how all the systems need to move up to make it happen. And
Oh,
so
that's interesting.
yeah, it's
Okay.
almost like a beautiful mind. Like I can see something and understand like all the pieces that need to scaffold onto that to make that happen. And
To
so
support that vision.
to support that vision,
Interesting.
yeah, it's just really exciting to me that that strategy and that who are the people we need and what are the funders we need and what are the components of it that will make
Right.
it
The
successful.
systems.
The systems. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get really nerdy about that. It's just
That's great. It's great that you found your flow, that
yeah,
you know that you're able to really dig into yourself and see what works for you, and just have this place that you can authentically contribute with your skill set.
thank
I
you.
mean,
It's
that's
true.
like a dream.
It is true. I feel very lucky. And you know, there's something to me about founders, the visionaries. You're one as well, where I see what you all are doing and I'm like, that is incredible. You know, like I want to help support that. I want to be a part of it. That's why I loved Haute Couture so much, is just these intersections of artistry and talent and vision. Like every year you brought like bigger and bolder and more beautiful
Yes.
fashion to this stage, and that's just like really exciting to me. It's where I draw so much inspiration. It's just we're so blessed to be surrounded in the Bay Area by so many
Oh
creators
man.
and
Yeah.
so many artistic individuals who are doing just awesome things.
It's really interesting to just trust, learn to trust yourself, not just as a woman, but as a human being, that those things that you like are of such benefit in a collaboration or in a group or to the world.
I love that. I love that. That's so, I love how you articulated that. That I I often ask myself, and when I was managing staff at the Crucible, I think a good question for us all to ask ourselves is, what's my highest service today? And I
Oh, that's
think
good.
for a visionary, for a founder, your highest service is like this huge, big, like picture of like what's next. What do I feel challenged by? What do I want to explore? And for individuals like myself, it's really helping to support those visions, those missions, those ideas. And I think there's something also interesting. I was just talking to a friend about this last night, is I think as women, we have a dual challenge around like not only what's our highest service, but when we've done enough. Like
Oh,
when
yeah.
it's enough. And I don't think any of us ever feel that you know, there's still more work to be done, there's more we can do, there's more we can be. And so I think to assemble a good team of just extraordinary people kind of like let some of that pressure off too.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I think like you get smart people in that room, and the cumulative decision making, the cumulative ideas are just always so much better. I loved having folks surrounding me. I had two folks, Carla and Rob, who I worked with for 12 years, and we were such great collaborators. And we all saw things so differently, and like we'd have these conversations, and the what came out of that was the highest form of
Yeah, the high.
collaboration, the best ideas.
What do you think makes a good collaboration? I mean, how does it, how did you guys do it so well together?
Um, I I I think you learn how to disagree agreeably, right? So that you kind of you remove your ego from it, right? Because the idea is you're trying to problem solve or come up with this solution. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think you have to create space for
Mm-hmm.
that, and I think you have to create opportunity for you as a leader to also be incorrect,
Mm-hmm.
because you may have your vision of what you think, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's floated through and seen from such different perspectives. And so I think it's a willingness to have hard conversations
Mhm.
and a willingness to hear all of it, and then to begin to kind of build that solution from all these perspectives, because everyone
Mhm.
sees things so differently.
Yeah,
And so that to
exactly.
me is really important. And I think a sense of humor, because
Yeah.
conversations get tough. And
So
um,
interesting. You
yeah,
say uh agree to disagree, and then create a space for that. What that sounds like to me is trust.
yes,
And it sounds like you know, you build allies that help challenge you, and the challenges come in when you're stretched and you can't see what they can see, but you
right,
have to create space and trust that you will. So it's
yeah.
almost like to collaborate well with other people, you have to trust yourself as much as you trust them,
I think that's right.
to just
I
see.
yeah, that
Interesting.
I love that you nailed trust, because that's exactly what it is. I mean, that it's creating that and trusting that what you're about to do, you all respect one another, and the
Yeah,
ultimate goal is to come to some sort of conclusion. Yeah, I think trust is essential.
yeah, and there comes a compassion.
Compassion is huge.
Yeah, yeah,
Compassion,
for it's really interesting to say, if you were talking about business and collaboration, and I mean, so we're talking about like basic implementing a new strategy or a new um, program or something. There's just basic things that have to happen. But when you talk about compassion, it kind of sounds ethereal. But in collaboration, people are putting their ideas out on the table. Compassion comes in when you say, "Yeah, I'm not sure I see that," but you can hold. It doesn't have energy.
right?
It's compassion for their authentic self and their wisdom that maybe is not fully perceived at the moment.
Yeah, and I think trust and compassion really goes a long way. I recall at the Crucible as a community arts center and having like a really robust youth program, really diving deep into equity and accessibility. I mean, that's always on my mind. You can ask
Yeah,
any of my bosses, like the thing forefront in my mind is really about inclusivity,
yeah,
and like who's not sitting at the table, whose voice are we not hearing.
that's
And I think
interesting.
to have brave, important conversations, we have to have trust and we have to have compassion, because we're all coming from such different
Yes,
places. And to really fulfill a mission or a vision, I think takes the best parts of us, but it also takes those hard, vulnerable places,
yeah,
that those places where um, it's just challenging to talk about or to name, and
yeah,
to give it space. And some of these conversations, I'm sure you appreciate this as someone in a long-term relationship, these conversations go on for a while,
yeah,
right? Like
they
we have
can.
to commit to like having this conversation and getting as far as we can, then we're going to like revisit it and look
Hmm.
at what that means.
Check in with self and see where the come from place is. Check in and see if person B knows, what they're sensing about it, where they're come from places. Yeah, it can take a while,
It
definitely.
can. It can. And I just feel like the what comes out of those hard conversations is the best thinking in some ways, because you vetted it around people who are very different, whose experiences are very different. Emily, my boss at Girls Garage, did a phenomenal job in 2020 as a leader. I mean, everything shut down. We couldn't run
Yeah,
our programs.
yeah,
Um, it was a huge year of racial reckoning and social
yes,
justice, and really like, how do we talk to our girls about this, how do we talk to our community about this, how do we grapple with this? And I think it takes a really brave leader to have those conversations.
some of those conversations are really tough.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to just acknowledge one thing that you said, because I think it's so interesting and important, and it's making me think. You said, when I'm in a meeting or when I'm um, doing something, I'm looking around to see who is not represented. That is so fascinating and such great perspective. I love it, and I want to implement it in so many areas. Even you could say the same thing in family. Who's
Yeah,
not being represented well in our family or
that's right.
in our neighborhood or our community?
Yeah,
That's really, really an excellent pivot perspective for me. Thank you.
you're welcome. It's been something like my boss says that for
Unique.
me is accessibility is like the flag like I post on the hill. I
Yeah.
probably like totally messed up that like saying, but it's a thing that really drives me. I had the opportunity to join YBCA's fellowship program in equity, and I had this opportunity to work with, I think there were 30 individuals who also focused on this idea, and I was in heaven. It was
Yeah.
just having conversations with folks who had thought about this, and it really deepened my
Hmm.
understanding. And it's again, it's like that early education I had in really thinking about literature of other people who haven't been predominantly featured.
Yeah.
It just informs this idea that like who are we missing, who do we need to be complete,
Mm.
and it makes it challenging for a nonprofit because nonprofits are always of service
Yeah.
to the community and
Yeah.
always working towards the betterment of, I mean that's the goal is for the betterment of the community. And so it's challenging to have someone who's always like, who else are we missing?
So yeah, I have a question. I mean, this is actually so can you include everybody?
I think you can, and it
Can you include everybody?
I think you can. I'll say two things. I think you can, and it'll take time and a lot of work, or you can create opportunities for there to be existing organizations of also like-minded people.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But I think it's important, especially for community service organizations. I think
Mhm.
it's important that your staff represents the community you serve.
Yeah, that's interesting also.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think we're better when we have these diverse voices and these
Absolutely.
diverse opinions. And so I think
Oh, it's so
ultimately
much juicier and
it's so,
richer, and the
yeah,
wisdom,
richer.
and it's so deep. It's so much deeper.
It
It's so
is.
much fuller. I mean, yeah, no question. I
Yeah,
agree. It's the value, it far outweighs the challenge of really creating a super diverse group for
totally. And
sure.
like what does inclusivity mean? How does that feel? Because
Yeah.
there's one thing to say we're diverse and we value diversity, but how does that feel to be that person in that organization? And I'm really inspired by these young people who are graduating and growing up, because these are kids who grew up with a black president,
Yeah.
where gay marriage was legal,
Yeah.
where marijuana is legal, like they
Yeah.
like non-binary. I mean, like
Right.
everything like is kind of a whole other perspective for them. And so I have a lot of faith in 15, 20 years some of these things won't be these questions we grapple with, because these
Right.
kids have grown up in such a different experience and time.
Yeah, that's interesting to contemplate too. What in 15 or 20 years, what will the frontier of business and community and the conversation around equity actually be?
Right. What will
Very
fashion look
interesting.
like? What will art look like?
Right.
What will buildings? I mean, Emily's whole idea with Girls Garage is if you give girls the tools to build the world they want to see, it will look significantly different.
Oh,
Our
yeah.
buildings, our hospitals, our homes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I'm
Oh,
really
wow.
inspired by that,
Wow.
right?
Wait. Wow.
Inspired by the people that surround me. Like I I I'm like, that's such a great idea. Look at what they're doing. This is extraordinary. So I certainly feel like it's my peers and
What
it's
is it about them that inspires you? What is it about that?
that's, yeah. I I think there's some I think there's something about the human experience that we want to create, we want to express, we want to
Mm-hmm.
build, we want to dream, we want to articulate.
Mm-hmm.
And to see it manifest in so many different ways, with you in fashion, with someone in photography, with someone else in a children's book,
Mm-hmm.
there's just there's just a vibrancy around like the human soul and creating.
Yes.
My friend Marvin K. White is a minister of celebration at Glide Memorial.
Ooh, Minister of Celebration. Oh,
Minister of
hello.
celebration. What a title, right? What
That's what I'm saying.
a title. And
Yes.
he talks about joy being our birthright.
Yes.
And to me, that is something that I return to all the time, that I find inspiration to
Interesting.
do whatever it is I need to do, whether it's writing or like exercising or finishing that grant, is that our birthright, we were born to experience joy. That's our right, just as much as to create. And so I think those two things really, really do inspire me. And love. Like I love my people and I feel so much love from them. And so I think those things all together just, just like sitting up there in the white puffy clouds in the fruit
Yeah.
veil.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's interesting because I had never thought of joy as an inspiration, but um listening to you talk about it and articulate it in that way, I want to share something with you really quick. Um when you were talking about when I was asking you what inspires, and you say people inspire you, and having them be in their joy, or more like having them seeing them in that space
Yeah.
of what they're doing. Well, I want to tell you why I make clothes.
Yes.
I um there is nothing more beautiful, more uh exciting, more vibrant than seeing a person in their flow. It
Yes.
doesn't matter to me what it is. It could be business systems, it could be high jump, it could be speaking engagement, it could be a musician on stage, it could be um track star, a person training dogs. You know that, like, you see them and they're just in their flow, and it's going, and you can just feel like the knowingness in the depth of their soul, and that you understand that they're in pure, what I know now is joy.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
they're
that's
they're
beautiful.
joy, and I want to build clothes that support that.
Oh,
I
love.
want people to, I want to make it easier, from the color to the texture to the silhouette to the elasticity or protectiveness, that enables them to be fully expressed in their flow, aka joy.
That's beautiful,
I
Lisa.
love
That
it.
totally resonates with your
Right?
aesthetic. Absolutely.
I'm like, I just want people to just be able to do what they do, even a mother. Like, you want to wear these bold colors and beautiful silhouettes, but you gotta have a split in that skirt, because you gotta run after toddlers. You can't just walk. You gotta run.
Yes. Yes.
That kind of stuff. And I love that you said that, because it gave me some more expression to really be able to understand myself a little bit.
So beautiful. I'm super inspired by hearing you talk about it. Just like envisioning you imagining your customer, like who's a mom who wants to look good
Yes,
looking after a toddler. Like
I
that's
totally do.
so
Yes.
beautiful to me. And it's so
Every
embodied too. Like I feel you when you're saying this, like in my mind's eye, I see all of it.
And now I can say, who am I missing? Who is not represented in the fashion
Yes,
world? Who is not represented in the hot functional garment world?
that's right.
It's so interesting. Yeah. Okay. I just had to share that with you, because I felt like I really understood more hearing you say it. It was,
I love hearing about you and your practice. Truly. I mean, you're truly exceptional. Like
oh,
I
thank you.
love your aesthetic. It was such a pleasure to work with you and Ron, and
Oh, thank you.
even like your crew of of other team members were just wonderful. And my mom used to say, like, you know, show me who you are by show me who you hang out with, or
Yeah.
something like that. But it's so true. Like, I always loved seeing you all, and you're professional, you're funny, you're accessible, just like truly lovely.
I could do this all day.
I know, truly.
Well, I was going to say the same because, Emily's really lucky that you're there, and like attracts like. So, especially at this stage in life, at this stage in a professional career, really knowing you to be super grounded in yourself, and just being like, oh, she's so lucky, and you're so lucky to have found her. And it's just like those, you put that frequency out there, when you start to resonate at your own vibration and really allow yourself to flow in those things that you're good at and those things you like to do. My mom always said, do what you love and the money will come.
It's so true. It's so very true.
Whatever it is,
When I
whatever it is,
whatever it is,
whatever.
whatever it is, it really is about, I absolutely agree. It's like what you put out, and like how open you are to the possibilities of what could be.
Yeah. It's amazing what happens. And but you have to let yourself. You have
Yeah.
to let yourself. We could talk forever about the components of being a woman and the archetypes, and some of those things are being lifted now, but I think that there's our generation is the first generation to really kind of fully embrace that in a bigger way and create opportunities for our I'm going to say girls, but children in general, to bust out of that.
That's
Yeah.
right. I mean, it must be really extraordinary too to see your experience and then Hope's experience, and like how she is living her life. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
only, I think in some ways I'm super impressed by the women I know that have daughters, because they took the good from their parents and then just like redid it all.
That's right.
These
They're
kids
like, no, you could keep that one over there. We don't want that. Thanks, though.
that's
That's
right.
sweet.
And she's growing up free and embodied, and has this mother who's doing extraordinary things and following her passion. I mean, it's just, it looks so much different for them, which I'm
Yeah, it
super
totally does.
thrilled.
The expectations, and yeah, it's interesting. And also there's a lot of anxiety in that freedom.
I believe that.
We between the social media and having like the world is your oyster, you could be, masculine, feminine, you can be a whatever you want on social media. And there's a lot of additional anxiety, I think, that you kind of understand as a kid if you read fashion magazines, or
Yeah.
um if you went to Hollywood or dreamed of that kind of life. It's like that longingness, the fear of missing out, is in such a bigger form now, that it's so important to ground kids into skills, tangible skills, um ability to express themselves, before the frontal cortex fully develops at age 24, because they're dealing with it sooner.
They are, and they're exposed to so much. Like, I look at my nieces
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, like, you can follow any hashtag on TikTok, which
Yes.
is both a blessing and a curse in some
Exactly.
ways.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about business for a second, like the
Okay.
tangible components of business. And you have a big background in administrative work. You talked about systems. Give me like your top 3 tools that you've had to use or that you couldn't live without to be successful the way that you are.
Okay. I'd say really a calendar.
Calendar.
Really 100% a calendar.
Do you
Just
calendar everything?
to calendar everything, not just meetings, but to also place markers of when I should start thinking about things,
Ah, mhm.
or reminders to send other people reminders about things. So a
Good.
system of organizing around dates is really imperative to me, because the older I get, things just kind of fall out of my head. So I think I think that is one. A second tool of business I think people management has been so important to all of my roles, whether it's working in haute couture or working with young folks or working with donors or board. It's really understanding how to work with um, people, how to manage those relationships, and really how to listen. I think that's
Yeah.
been instrumental to me, is giving people the opportunity to talk and to just hear what they're saying, not thinking about what you're going to say. And the third, I think the third would be, I think it's knowing how to manage a team, to really get disparate personalities together and to work collectively towards bigger solutions. And so I think it's yeah, it's leadership and listening and a
Yeah.
good calendar for me. I feel like those have been really important and instrumental in my work across the board.
Yeah. I could see that. It's interesting. Thank you for sharing those. It's
Well,
very interesting to see what people gather in their toolkit and really what they depend on the most. Um, Sometimes just saying your few top tools can really help elevate somebody else who's just learning.
it's a good question. I love that
Yeah.
you asked that.
Oh, I love it. I'm so glad that we got to do this. I feel, I've always loved just being in your presence and connecting with you, and um I always feel really heard and supported, and my mind is expanded, and I super appreciate that about you. You're so fucking badass. I'm just honored to have met you and to know you and to be able to interview you. So I just
Thank you
thank you.
so